Welcome to Revisit Books podcast, where we turn books into bite-sized wisdom you can use every day. Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are immersing ourselves in an exploration that promises to fundamentally change how you navigate your career and your life, how successful people think.
That's spot on. And, this isn't some long, dense philosophy book. It's actually a pretty concise guide, but incredibly impactful. It's from John C. Maxwell, who's a huge name in leadership development.
Right, the guy behind the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership and a load of other bestsellers.
Exactly. And his reputation, it's really built on making these sometimes complex leadership ideas practical, actionable steps that, individuals and organizations anywhere can pretty much use right away. He's not about abstract theory.
And the power of this book, I think, lies in how direct it is. It just lays out these 11 essential ways of thinking, the common threads, you could say, that run through successful people in all sorts of fields, business, arts, community work, everything. It really shifts the focus from just, working harder to working smarter by improving how you actually think about the work itself. We're talking creativity, challenging the norm, making better decisions faster.
Exactly. And for you listening, navigating today's world with all the information, the complexity, it means understanding how to, broaden your perspective, tap into your own creativity, and learn from the past. That's just critical for getting ahead.
So our mission today is really to distill those 11 principles, give you a kind of shortcut, a framework you can use to seriously level up your game, personally and professionally.
Makes sense. So who really needs this? Who's this framework for? Well, I'd say this exploration is perfect for the learner. Anyone who wants to absorb knowledge quickly but thoroughly, someone who really values those aha moments where something just clicks.
Yeah, those moments where observation turns into real understanding. I think maybe the most immediate benefit is for anyone feeling just swamped by the day-to-day stuff. You know that feeling? Reacting constantly, putting out fires.
Oh, absolutely. The tyranny of the urgent, right? Week after week. This way of thinking is designed specifically to help you shift from that reactive mode to proactive, structured planning.
So if your calendar feels less like steps towards a goal and more like just a list of demands.
Exactly. If it's all short-term demands, this book offers the structure to break that cycle. It helps make sure your mental energy, which is finite, right? It goes where it actually delivers the best results.
Okay, and what about leaders? Because seeing the path forward for a whole team, that feels like a different kind of thinking challenge altogether.
It absolutely is. Leaders have to master seeing those connections, the big picture, and then, crucially, translating that into a vision that's clear, compelling, something the team can actually get behind.
Without that disciplined thinking, the vision stays fuzzy.
Stays fuzzy, yeah. Or the team just lacks direction, cohesion. And Maxwell, he hits this point hard, too. He talks about the danger of popular thinking. He literally says it often lacks depth, leading to mediocre thought processes.
Ouch. So if you're getting average results, maybe it's time to look at how you're thinking, not just what you're doing.
Precisely. This approach gives you the structure to push past that mediocrity. It's really about harnessing your mental energy, cutting through the noise and information overload, and making sure, every decision lines up with those bigger long-term goals you've set.
All right, let's dive into the 11 principles themselves. We'll start with building that foundational mindset. First up, cultivate big picture thinking. This sounds like AVO. Focusing on the long game. Relationships, growth, strategy, not just the immediate win or loss.
That's exactly it. It's about elevating your viewpoint, getting above the day-to-day grind, and seeing the whole chessboard, not just the square you're on right now. Maxwell really emphasizes that successful people are lifelong learners. They're always seeking new knowledge, new experiences.
They treat everything as a learning opportunity, even just like daily tasks.
Yeah, every conversation, every activity. But it's not passive learning. You have to be intentional about acquiring this big picture view.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? What are the methods Maxwell suggests?
Well, first, intentional listening. This isn't just hearing. It's actively engaging with experts, mentors, even critics, trying to really understand their broader perspective, their insights. It takes a bit of humility, admitting your view is limited.
And recognizing others hold pieces of the puzzle. Makes sense. What else?
Second, you've got to embrace ambiguity, get comfortable with uncertainty, actively challenge the status quo, those mental limits we all have. That forces your worldview to stretch, to expand.
That comfort with ambiguity, That seems crucial for leadership, doesn't it? It lets you see paths for the team where they might only see roadblocks.
Exactly. It helps you build that shared vision, even when things aren't totally clear. It fosters teamwork because everyone's aiming for the same challenging but visible horizon.
Okay, let's put a critical lens on this straight away. Is there a risk in only focusing on the big picture, forgetting about the crucial details, the meticulous execution needed right now?
That's a really important point, a valid critique.
Yeah.
Maxwell definitely champions the holistic view. But yeah, an overemphasis on just the big picture can lead to, well, maybe a kind of strategic arrogance, where the details get dismissed as someone else's job.
Right.
Critics definitely point out that success isn't just about grand ideals. Often it's the meticulous planning and focused execution of those immediate smaller tasks that really drives results. You absolutely need the vision, but you need the tactical discipline too. It's a balance.
That's actually a perfect transition to principle 2. Engage in focused thinking. So if big picture is the map, focused thinking is maybe the steering wheel.
Yeah.
Getting rid of distractions, mental clutter to achieve real clarity and solve problems effectively.
Spot on. Thinkers like Bertrand Russell have talked about this for ages. Concentration is key to major achievements. Focused thinking, it basically harnesses all your mental energy and aims it like a laser at specific goals.
That lets ideas mature, right? Takes them from just good to potentially great.
Exactly, because they get sustained attention. Maxwell argues that excellence rarely comes from being a generalist. It comes from strategic specialization, from really concentrating your efforts.
Okay, the practical side of this is huge, especially today with all the, well, everything vying for our attention. How do we actually protect this focused time?
It really starts with identifying priorities. Maxwell brings up the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. You figure out the 20% of your activities that give you 80% of your results.
And then focus most of your energy, like 80% on that vital 20%.
Precisely. It requires some pretty ruthless prioritization. But then the key is making focus a ritual. Successful people, Maxwell points out, don't just wait for focus to happen. They create the conditions for it.
Like setting up a specific environment.
Yeah, creating an environment for uninterrupted thought. Maybe blocking out the first 2 hours of the day, turning off notifications, actively resisting multitasking.
Resisting multitasking.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. We're kind of conditioned to think being busy means being productive. But I guess this intense focus must come with trade-offs, right?
Oh, it absolutely does. And this is a really profound part of it. Achieving this high level of focus often means making strategic sacrifices.
Like what kind of sacrifices?
Well, maybe limiting your broader social circle to focus on a core group who align with your goals. It might mean saying no to interesting opportunities because they'd spread you too thin. You basically have to accept that you might trade some generalized knowledge or well-roundedness for deep expertise in your chosen area.
So it's a calculated choice to cut out the noise, even if some of that noise seems potentially valuable.
Exactly. It's about protecting that high-value 20% focus.
Okay, so we have the big vision, the strategy from big picture thinking, and the discipline to execute from focused thinking. But discipline without new ideas can be, well, pretty dry. Which brings us neatly to principle 3.
Yeah.
Harness creative thinking. The joy isn't just maintaining things, it's creating them.
Right. And Maxwell's big point here is that creativity isn't some magical gift only artists have. It's a vital resource, a skill, really, in any field. And crucially, it's something anyone can get better at by changing their mindset and what they expose themselves to.
So what does a creative thinker look like, according to Maxwell? What are the signs?
Well, they share a few key traits. They really value ideas no matter where they come from. They're comfortable with ambiguity, maybe even celebrate things that seem a bit offbeat because they know that's where novelty often lies.
And they connect things others don't see.
That's a big one, connecting the unconnected. Linking ideas or concepts from different areas to find innovative solutions that aren't obvious. They understand it's about imagination plus discipline, not just raw talent.
He also breaks down the creative process. Thinking, collecting ideas, creating, correcting, connecting. But the part that seems to trip most people up is failure.
Absolutely critical point. Maxwell insists you have to actively embrace failure. It's not the opposite of success. It's a necessary ingredient in exploration and innovation. Failure gives you that essential feedback you need to correct course and make new connections.
So you learn from it, basically.
You learn from it, you adjust. And creativity, used this way, adds immense value, like compound interest. The more you use your creative muscle, the stronger it gets over time.
Right. We've laid the groundwork, thinking big, focusing in, and being creative. Now let's bring it back down to earth. Principle 4. Employ realistic thinking. This feels like the essential reality check, defining what's real, bridging the gap between what you want and what your actual situation is.
Exactly. It's a grounding mechanism. Facing reality, Maxwell says, is the absolute first step to solving any problem effectively. It helps minimize your downside risk.
How so?
Well, by rigorously looking at potential consequences, both good and bad, you're just better prepared for whatever happens. It also builds a kind of security, because if you've already thought through the worst-case scenario, surprises don't hit as hard.
Like planning for big events.
Yeah, think about the security planning for something like the Super Bowl, especially after 9/11. That expensive, realistic planning about potential threats actually builds confidence for everyone involved because they know things have been considered.
And for a leader, realism builds trust, right? Teams trust someone who deals in facts, not just wishful thinking.
Absolutely. Credibility is huge. So how do you cultivate this? First, Maxwell says develop an appreciation for truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Then, critically, do your homework. Gather accurate data, really analyze the pros and cons, seek out diverse opinions, especially those that challenge your own assumptions.
And finally,
Finally, align your thinking squarely with your resources, your time, your money, your people. Is the plan actually feasible with what you have? If not, it's not realistic thinking, it's wishful thinking.
that discipline, doing your homework, leads straight into Principle 5. Utilize strategic thinking. This is more than just daily planning, right? It's organizing things on a bigger scale, weekly or monthly, linking today to your future goals.
Yeah, it's a continuous cycle. And Maxwell has this zinger, something like, most people spend more time planning their summer vacation than planning their lives, which might be true.
Probably.
Yeah.
Why is strategic thinking so vital then?
Because it simplifies complexity.
Huh.
It takes those huge, overwhelming challenges and breaks them down into manageable steps, into a sequence. And maybe even more importantly, it forces you to ask the right questions.
Right.
Like asking why before how. Always. Understand the core purpose, the objective, before you jump into figuring out the methods or solutions. This why-first approach dramatically cuts down on wasted effort, on errors, because it ensures everything you do serves the ultimate goal.
So it leads to bigger wins in the long run.
Much bigger. For it to work, though, the guidelines are strict. First, identify the real issues and clear, measurable objectives. Second, take stock of all your resources. Third, build a step-by-step plan. And fourth, put the right people in the right roles for execution.
And it's not a one-off thing.
Definitely not. Maxwell compares it to showering. You got to do it regularly to stay effective. It has to be a continuous process of planning, acting, reviewing, and adjusting.
Okay, so we have a plan grounded in reality, thanks to strategic and realistic thinking. But you also need belief, right? Which brings us to Principle 6. Explore possibility thinking. This sounds like fostering a belief that solutions can be found, that you can achieve things that seem impossible at first glance.
Exactly. This mindset literally expands what's possible for you. Look at George Lucas and Star Wars. That was an incredibly ambitious, maybe even impossible vision at the time.
Right.
But by embracing that challenge, by thinking in terms of possibilities, he didn't just make a movie. He opened the door to a whole ecosystem, merchandise, sequels, new technologies, multiple revenue streams that basically changed the entertainment industry forever,
Right.
all because he believed it could be done.
And that kind of thinking attracts others, doesn't it?
Oh,
Big
yeah.
thinkers tend to draw in other talented, opportunity-focused people.
It's magnetic, absolutely. It creates an atmosphere where innovation can thrive. And critically, possibility thinking allows individuals and teams to rise above just being average
How does it do that?
by constantly challenging that label of impossible. When you refuse to accept limitations easily, when you focus relentlessly on finding solutions instead of dwelling on problems, you not only energize yourself, but you inspire confidence and bigger thinking in everyone around you. You raise the bar.
Right, we've looked at planning, executing, believing. Now let's turn inward a bit, towards reflection and self-correction. Principle 7. Learn from reflective thinking. This is about deliberately taking time to pause, think, and learn from experiences, something that's easily overlooked when things are moving fast.
Easily overlooked, but irreplaceable. Reflection is what gives you true perspective. It forces you to step back and understand events, successes, failures on a deeper level. Often it leads to gratitude, maybe some humility too.
And it builds confidence for the future.
Yeah, definitely. By reviewing past experiences, what worked, what didn't, you create these sort of mental road markers. They help diffuse doubt when you face similar choices later on. You've been there before, you learned something.
It helps clarify the big picture too, right? Seeing patterns, understanding your own role and how things played out, it turns just an experience into an actual insight.
Exactly. An experience is just something that happens to you. An insight is something you can use. So how do you build this habit? It needs intention and, crucially, solitude.
Protected time.
Yep, set aside specific time, treat it like an important meeting, and find solitude you need to remove distractions to think clearly. A practical tip is to review your calendar or journal, ask specific questions about your growth or decisions.
And then,
Then the most important part, cement the learning. Write down the insights, figure out how you'll apply them, turn the reflection into action. Otherwise, it's just navel-gazing.
that kind of reflection helps you spot when maybe the crowd or popular opinion is heading the wrong way. Which leads us to principle 8. Question thing. Popular thinking. I think Keynes said something like, the difficulty isn't new ideas, it's escaping the old ones everyone accepts.
That's the essence of it. Popular thinking, Maxwell argues, is inherently limiting because it tends to lack depth. If an idea is easy and common, the outcome is usually, well, common, mediocre.
And it resists change.
By its very nature, its goal is often to maintain the status quo, keep things comfortable, so it naturally restricts visionary ideas. It's sort of undisciplined thinking, in a way.
So how do we push back against that? It sounds like it requires a kind of disciplined rebellion.
It does. First step, think before following. Just because something is popular doesn't mean it's right for you or your goals. Really evaluate it against your own objectives. Don't just jump on the bandwagon.
Makes sense. What else?
Second, cultivate intellectual humility by appreciating diverse perspectives. Actively seek out people who think differently, who come from different backgrounds. Their common sense might be your breakthrough insight.
But challenging the status quo can be uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right? Especially professionally.
Definitely. You have to embrace discomfort, accept that you might face criticism, maybe even some isolation if you reject popular ideas in favor of what you believe is genuinely more effective, even if it's unpopular.
But there's a balance here too, isn't there? Popular thinking isn't always wrong.
That's the critical nuance, yes. While questioning is vital, popular thought sometimes holds real collective wisdom, things tested over time. The goal isn't just to be contrary for the sake of it. It's critical evaluation, not automatic dismissal. Sometimes those established ways provide the foundation you need for your innovation.
Okay, so once we've learned to think critically for ourselves, even questioning the crowd, the next step is leveraging others. Principle 9. Benefit from shared thinking. Ken Blanchard's famous quote comes to mind, "None of us is as smart as all of us." Collaboration.
Exactly. This taps into the power of working together. The advantages are huge. First, it's often a faster process. More minds, diverse viewpoints. They spot problems and opportunities quicker.
And it leads to better ideas.
Generally, yes. It's more innovative because the best ideas often spark at the intersection, maybe even the friction, between different ways of thinking. You get combinations you wouldn't have reached alone.
Which means the final outcome is stronger. Synergy.
Right. The collective result is usually far greater than just adding up individual contributions. Maxwell stresses that truly great ideas rarely pop up fully formed in one person's head. They emerge from combining multiple good ideas.
So valuing what others bring to the table is key.
Fundamental. For leaders, this means shifting from maybe internal competition to genuine cooperation, creating an environment where people feel safe enough to share half-baked ideas, to build on each other's thoughts without feeling threatened. That emotional security is vital for shared thinking to actually work.
Okay, Principle 10 feels like a big shift in perspective. Practice unselfish thinking. This is about redefining success away from just personal gain towards service, towards contributing to others. Maxwell suggests this brings deep satisfaction.
It's potentially transformative, yes, on two levels. First, personal fulfillment. He argues, quite powerfully, that helping others is one of the most meaningful things we can do. Think of Alfred Nobel using his fortune to create the Nobel Prizes, shifting his legacy entirely.
Right. And the second level.
It connects you to a purpose larger than yourself, sometimes even larger than profit. He points to organizations like Merck, which has historically made decisions based on humanitarian need, like distributing river blindness medication, even when the financial case wasn't obvious.
And this ties into creating a legacy. He talks about the learn, earn, return model. Can you break that down?
Sure. It's a life cycle, essentially. You spend time learning, building skills and expertise. Then you earn, reaping the financial and professional rewards of that expertise. But the ultimate measure, in this view, is the return giving back. Not just money, but your time, your mentorship, your experience, investing it in others, in your community, in the next generation.
Making sure your success ripples outwards.
Exactly. Now, how do you cultivate this genuinely without it just becoming, well, disguised ambition, as Maxwell puts it?
Good question.
He says you have to consciously put others first. Actively expose yourself to real needs in the world, get out of your bubble. Practice giving quietly, maybe anonymously, without needing the pat on the back. And constantly check your motives. Is this truly about service, or is it about looking good?
Now, the critical view here, while the idea of fulfillment is powerful, is it guaranteed? Does everyone get the same satisfaction from altruism?
That's an important consideration. Maxwell emphasizes the intrinsic reward, but we should probably acknowledge perspectives like self-determination theory, which suggest our core psychological needs for autonomy, competence, relatedness heavily influence what motivates us and brings us satisfaction.
So unselfish acts need to align with those deeper needs to feel truly fulfilling for a given individual.
It seems likely, yes. The impact of unselfish thinking on personal satisfaction is probably quite personalized, not a universal guarantee in the exact same way for everyone.
Okay, we've reached the final principle, number 11, which kind of brings us back to focus and results. Rely on bottom-line thinking. This is about zeroing in on the core measure of success, the ultimate outcome, whether for an organization or your personal goals. And it's broader than just money, right?
Absolutely. It's about defining the real goal, the ultimate purpose, and cutting away everything that doesn't directly contribute to it. The case study of Frances Hesselben at the Girl Scouts is a fantastic example.
Remind us of that one.
The organization was struggling when she took over. Instead of getting lost in budgets or bureaucracy, she relentlessly focused everyone on the true bottom line, helping a girl reach her highest potential. That single, clear, mission-driven metric clarified everything.
It realigned their efforts.
Completely. It simplified decisions, operations, and actually boosted participation because every action could be measured against that core purpose. Does this activity help a girl reach her potential? Yes or no?
That clarity must be incredibly powerful. It simplifies choices, boosts morale when you hit the mark.
Huge benefits. But implementing it requires real discipline. First, you must identify the real bottom line. It has to be specific, measurable, and truly the core objective. Second, make that bottom line the absolute central focus. Everything revolves around it.
And third,
and this is crucial, stick with one system. Constantly changing how you measure success just creates confusion and dilutes focus. Pick the right bottom line, and then stick to measuring against it consistently. This applies just as much to personal goals like a specific health target, not just get healthier. Consistency builds the habit. So, if we pull all 11 of these principles together, what's the main takeaway?
I think the core message is really clear. Success isn't about picking just one of these ways of thinking and sticking to it. No, the real mastery, the real key, is learning to switch between them intentionally, fluidly. Knowing when to zoom out with big picture thinking, when to drill down with focused thinking, when to generate ideas with creative thinking, and when to execute ruthlessly with bottom line thinking. It's about having the whole toolkit and knowing which tool to use when.
It definitely sounds like it requires structure and real discipline. I like that Thomas Fuller quote you mentioned earlier. He that is everywhere is nowhere. You can't just dabble in these. You have to choose to make the time, apply the structure, push past lazy or common thinking. You have to build the habit of thinking successfully. It's an active process.
Which leads us to a final thought, something for you, the listener, to chew on. We talked quite a bit about how focused thinking demands trade-offs, maybe sacrificing broad connections or general knowledge for that deep excellence. Now, if we combine that with unselfish thinking, where the ultimate measure might be your legacy, your positive impact.
Interesting intersection.
Right. So the provocative question is, how do you strategically decide which personal sacrifices are truly worth making today to maximize that positive, lasting impact on the world tomorrow? That requires a blend of strategic, reflective, and maybe even unselfish thinking all at once. Something to consider. That's today's breakdown. While this discussion cannot replace the book's full text, it can offer a glimpse into its teachings. I hope you found this discussion helpful, and I look forward to sharing more. Let me know what book next you want to discuss.